try to, it's a short appointment, you know, so I try to build a little bit of rapport with them, and then leave them my business card, and then ask them if I can, you know, add them to my email. It's a short appointment.
Okay, did I lose you? You still there?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Now I muted the YouTube version of you, and I didn't want to mute the real version of you, so I guess I did. Good. Well, hey, we just left the YouTube, and we probably should get started. I'm Bill Gross. I am a real estate broker here in Los Angeles, California, and this is our weekly real estate investment Zoom call, realestateinvestingzoom.com, where we talk about all things real estate investment, both how to get your first deal, for experienced investors, where to find deals from, and vendors and such. And I want to start off today with just a couple of thoughts. First on, who here has heard of the term iBuyer? Say I or raise your hand or put.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard of it.
I.
All right, good. A couple of you. Who else? So anybody in real estate should at least be familiar with the term. So an iBuyer generically means some sort of buyer of investment property. And the I kind of goes back to the old days when we had iPhones were new. That was a while ago, huh? Where it's bought off the internet. So rather than say the traditional local investor or regional company, an iBuyer refers to generically somebody who can go online and buy a property. Zillow has a program like that. On with EXP, we have our Express Offers program. That's one of those programs. There's iBuyer only programs like Open Door, which is a publicly traded company now that has these programs. And basically those are where they market directly to a consumer. And a seller will say, well, I don't really bother with all of that. I'll just sell my house to Zillow and they'll buy it. And which explains, as a real estate agent, if you wonder why the Zillow estimates now so much lower than they used to be, it's because Zillow is kind of competing with themselves now, where they used to have a ridiculously high price and sellers would complain if you couldn't sell their house for their high price. Now they keep the price low and Zillow's going, well, we'll buy it at that price. The whole thing is kind of a bit of a, but the main thing I wanted to say is this is part of the business. It's significant. It's not as big here in LA as it is, let's say in Phoenix, Arizona, or places where homes are more tract oriented, right? It's easier to identify. But it's a piece of the market. It's growing from 0 to 1 to 2% of the market. Fascinating statistics I came across today, though. Absolutely fascinating. Because these companies now are publicly traded, Zillow with iBuyer and Open Doors, and companies want to be. They either have to report statistics or analysts look at the numbers and try to analyze what they're doing to see if they're profitable or not. So here's a question. What percentage of properties that they bid on as an industry do you think they actually close escrow on as iBuyers? What percentage of properties they bid on, which means a home seller goes into their forms. If you've ever seen any of these, some are quite cumbersome. How many fireplaces, what kind of flooring, what kind of, cabinetry, pictures. You upload it, they look at it, and they make a bid based on that number. What percentage do you think, either put in the chat box or call out loud, what percentage of the properties they bid on do you think they actually end up buying?
About 5%.
Is it just for iBuyer? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
iBuyer or the Zillow one?
iBuyers in general. The industry, I think Zillow's numbers are similar from what the analyst I saw had Zillow and Open Door is almost the same. What do you think the general market number is?
0.5%.
Yeah, I agree for 5.
So Daniel says 0.5%. What else? Any other guesses?
I said 5.
Melissa says 5. Good. Any other guesses? Melissa 5%. Andrew says 20%. Okay. So I guess
30.
30. Patricia says 30. Anybody think higher than 30%? And Daniel says 0.5%, maybe lower than that.
For all of us, I hope it's much lower than that.
Yes.
Well, if you've listened to me on this call, I've shared with you my universal answer when I ask investors, how many properties do you look at for each one you buy? Who's heard me answer that?
Hundreds.
Well, the answer that I normally give, and I've given for years and recently changed, was 100. Meaning, to me, the universal answer when I would ask investors,
100%.
the answer I got back was, out of 100, they say 100 properties for one, which is 1%. Okay. Recently, I've changed that number in talking to some investors who tell me they look at way more properties than they used to for each one they buy. There's a very famous internet investor who got out of the business because it was too much work, because he was only buying one for every 150 houses he looked at. So iBuyers as an industry, according to the analysts I read, 2%. 50 houses that they bid on when they buy. Not 50 they look at, 50 that get uploaded, they look at all the numbers, and they make an offer on. A number of them they don't make an offer on, about half they'll make an offer on. So really, you could say of the properties submitted, about 100 get submitted, half they throw out, and the half they bid on, they get 2%. So again, we're back to about 1 in 100. So this is the breakdown, I think, for new investors. I think experienced investors know this number because they live it, right? They live it every day. I could tell you the last few weeks I've had investors call me out of the woodwork because they see I sold some listings, or they see me on a listing in Probate or whatever. And they all tell me universally that they're digging deeper to find property, right? Because the inventory is lower, the market's hot, people are making money, but they want more product. There's more people coming in to invest. And so what I want you to think about as a prospective investor is it's about 100 properties you look at. Now, that doesn't mean 100 that you offer on. It doesn't mean 100 that you go personally and see, but about 100 properties, at least you run the numbers close enough to get a feel for, is it close enough or not? Maybe 100 comps, maybe you visit in person 5, write 3 offers to get one, maybe something like that. And depending on your format, there's different ways to cut that. But I want to say that on one hand, it's probably more work than you would think. Who thinks 100 properties to close one is a lot of work? Say aye.
Aye.
Who thinks it's easy money? Say aye. Answer, it's a lot of work. Now, I'm not ashamed to say I'm making a lot of money right now, but I'm working really, really hard, right? So I'll share with you the flip side of that. I met a guy. Let me go back. The reason I started this phone call was pre-COVID. I went every week to a meeting in Van Nuys, at the Sizzler in Van Nuys. I couldn't even eat because I keep kosher. I could go and have a cup of coffee or a glass of water, but there are about 30, 40, 50 people. I don't see anybody on this call from that group. There probably is. Let me see real quick. Oh, there's Dr. Ed. That's where I met Dr. Ed. That's where I met Gabriella, who's on the call. So a couple of you guys here are from that group. But we used to go to Sizzler every Wednesday at noon. And look, if you live in West LA, the last place you want to go is Van Nuys at noon. And not being able to eat, I'm hungry. I'm hungry and can't eat. That's a bad combination for me. But I went because I met people and found deals. Guess what? There's a guy I met there 2 years ago when I started going, who I sold a couple houses to as an investor. And he and I stayed in touch, and he called me about 6 months ago. He knew a guy that had a property that he had inherited. It was in his name. And it was a fixer, and he wanted to sell. Now, this is 6 months ago. And I gave him some coaching, gave him some wording and a strategy. And he met with the guy, and nothing happened, but he stayed in touch. Called back every month. Called me on Friday. He's ready to sell for this price. I knew we could make some money. I put an investor in on the deal. We made an offer, 10-day close, signed the deal on Friday. I sold the property to another investor of mine, 10-day close. We got financing lined up. This is his second investment he's made in his career. He's making about $100,000 profit. Now, It's a 6-month process. He's followed up on this guy. He is putting up $10,000 of his own deposit money. But truth is, if he brought me the deal and didn't have the money, I'd advance it. Because I'm going to make good money on the commission on both sides of the deal. So here's what I want to say to you guys. On one hand, it's a lot of work to look at 100 or 150 houses to find one. True or false? Who's done it besides me? Daniel, Roy, yep. On the other hand, you can get paid a lot of money when you find a deal. True or false? So then it's just a question of how bad you want it. How many houses you have to look at, and let's get started. Because really, to me, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Is that you're committed to that outcome and you do what you have to do to achieve that goal. So whatever your numbers are, whatever your business plan is, if you're brand new, you got to look at a lot of deals. Go to networking events like this. Go online and look for deals. Learn how to run the numbers. But when you find something that's a really good deal, trust me, it can be done. You don't need any money. You don't need financing. You might need to give up some of the profit. You might need to give up a little bit of it. My client's giving up commission. He's paying a little fee for the transaction funding. I sell that for him. He's still going to make over $100,000 in the deal. So who'd like to do a couple of those in the next few weeks? Say aye.
Aye.
Yeah. It's just a number game. Thank you. I do.
Aye.
I
Aye.
do. And here's what I'll tell you: the more you participate, the more money you make on this call. It's how it works. I spent a bit of the last couple of weeks watching Grant Cardone, and this weekend he had his 10X boot camp. I can't watch on Saturday, but I watched some on Friday. Watched quite a bit on Sunday, and he's also a big believer in you got to participate if you want to make money. You got to meet people, talk to people, put out there what you're looking for, put out there what you can do for other people. That's what we got to do to make some money. So that's what we talked about today. It was the iBuyer program, but at the end of the day, all it means is you got to find 100 deals to get paid once to make about, I don't know, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. And if your average deal, sorry, I had to close the door. My wife's dog was getting out. If you can make $30,000, $40,000 a deal, how many deals a year do you have to make your income number? Or a month? Think about that number. Imagine each deal you made, I don't know, $30,000, just to pick a number. How many deals you have to do to achieve your goals? 5, 10, 20, 35? Then it's just a function of once you know that number, look at that many properties. If your goal was to do one a month and make $30,000 a month to make $360 a year, how many properties a month do you got to look at? About 100. Well, there's 20 work days in a month. If you just work 5 days a week, that's 5 properties a day. Is that doable? That's all we're talking about. So at the end of the day, it becomes a numbers game. Okay, I threw in a big concept here. You guys either are all in agreement, and I'm going to standing ovation, or your heads are spinning with questions. So what is it? Anders, thank you. Standing ovation. Appreciate that. From Central
It's spinning with
California.
questions.
Questions? Go ahead. How do I get to 100 deals real fast? Would be my only question. And my answer, just in case you're wondering, is talk to more people. I do this call, I do one on Thursday. I do a couple other calls. One tomorrow I'm guest hosting for a multifamily investment group. My goal is to talk to people. As I'm working, I just want to talk to people. That's my goal. And leave all the administrative stuff as much as I can to somebody else. And I have people calling me with deals all day. I go through and try to sift through and find the money and help people close deals. What's your strategy? Because here's what I tell you, anybody can do this. Anybody. There's no real magic to this. Because if you don't know if there's a deal or not, find somebody who can tell you if there's a deal or not. Don't have any money? Find somebody with money.
I think having confidence is a major part of it too. I mean, you're going to get a lot of rejection, and that's okay. It has really nothing to do with you. Again, if the deal's right, you gel with the buyer, seller, you're going to make money. I mean, it's just, it's follow up, it's your presence, it's your confidence, not being arrogant, I think is also, well, maybe you do have to be arrogant with certain clients too. So I think it's just, there's a number of different things that can make you successful. And the main thing is just get on the phone, call.
Just keep talking to people, just keep in the process, keep in the hunt, keep on the grind. You're right. You have to have a certain amount of confidence. I think that's why the purpose of a call like this is to share failures, get them off your chest, get yourself back on track. I think that we all need, even real estate can be a very lonely business. We all need kind of a group of people to hang out with, to encourage us, to push us forward. But what I will say is the fastest way to confidence is just to participate, make those phone calls, talk to people. The more deals you do, the more confidence you'll have, right? But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is how committed are you to your goal. You'll get the confidence if you do the work. You'll do the work when you're committed to the outcome. Anybody could have found the deal my friend found. Anybody. He just was talking. He talks to a lot of people about real estate, and this guy raised his hand and said, I have a house, but it's thrashed. And I say this all the time. You're looking for people with problems. If somebody says I have a house to sell, but it's in pristine condition, it's perfect. Trust me, they don't need you. As a real estate agent, they want to set up a dog. They want to have a beauty pageant of realtors, 100 long, to show off the trophy house. Nothing wrong with it. They'll need me. I want people who need me. This other house, this thing is thrashed. It's got this damage, that damage. Great. I couldn't be happier to hear that. Because you're not going to sell at retail. They need somebody's going to come in. It has financing and get this thing moving along. Get it trashed out. Get it fixed up. That's what I do. That's what when you're an investor, that's what you're looking for. Somebody who has a problem. So really, you just got to talk to more people and make sure when you hear they have a problem, your ears should perk up and say, how can I help? I know a guy that can fix that problem.
And listen too, I think that's another aspect of it. What are they truly telling you? Most of the people that are kind of on the fence, they sell themselves, so what is exactly happening with your situation? And then they're going to tell you X, and then you can kind of use that as your ammo to fire back and say, well, why are you dealing with that? Let's go ahead and let's fix the problem. This is who I know. That's a huge thing to change, your relationship, because it actually kind of comes from care and the need to fill that, to solve that problem.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I think it first comes from caring about people and being genuine about it. I don't think you can fake that, or you can't for long. It gets to be worrying after a while. It's hard enough to tell people when you do care about them. It's very hard when you don't.
I have a question, Bill.
Sure, Dr. Ed.
Is there not one person on this Zoom call that has a problem? Is there not one person on this Zoom call that needs something? Is there not one person on this Zoom call that has something that someone else might need? Are we all on here just watching the little square up in the corner of Bill talk? Or are we going to be satisfying some needs that we might have? I find this group to be catatonic. Are there no problems whatsoever?
Edward, I have a
out there?
problem. I have a problem, Edward, and maybe the group can help me with it.
Great.
Okay.
Wonderful.
All right. So I'm a buy and hold investor. I currently own 5 rental properties. They're all out of state. I live in California. They're all in different states. My most recent purchase worked really well on paper. It's a duplex in the Fort Myers area of Florida. Paid $239,000 for it. The mortgage was about just over $1,000. The rent was just over $2,000. So it cash flowed beautifully. Bought it in September. And I come to find that the unit has Chinese drywall.
Ouch.
I had heard of Chinese drywall a decade ago, but it was one of those things that sort of went away and hadn't heard of it since. And this is the only unit I own in Florida, which apparently where a lot of this drywall went in. And so now, so it's a duplex, one tenant just moved out. The other one is likely going to move out at the end of the month. And I'm kind of like thinking, okay, well, what are my options here? I can pay, I think maybe about $60,000 to replace the drywall on it and any other things that need replacing. It'll probably still cash flow because I mean, it cash flowed pretty well to begin with. But I guess my question is, I'm pretty sure that the seller knew that there was Chinese drywall. They did provide a report that was done in 2019, I think, stating there wasn't, but the report specifically said, this is from this company for this insurance company to prove that this, you know, that there is no Chinese drywall. But but they had just changed the AC coils in the unit, which I'm assuming because they were corroded because of the drywall. So anyway, and I guess I need to know, I could just, you know, dig in my pocket, find 60 grand or so to replace the drywall and anything else and just rent it and chalk it up to, well, those are some of the things that you have to deal with in the real estate. But in terms of liability, I'm not the drywall manufacturer. That's all done with. All those companies settled, you know, on those. But the seller, the seller, I'm pretty sure knew. And so, what would you do in this situation? I guess is my answer. Should I call the insurance company or the professional liability company for the company that inspected it before and said there was no drywall? Does the seller's agent have any responsibility there, or the seller themselves? I'm just curious.
In my opinion, you have to ask 3 questions. And the first thing you do before you even ask those questions is you call the Florida Department of Consumer Affairs, because that department most likely has thousands of people who have called them about this exact problem. They probably have a specialist on this problem, and you can find out a lot more information about it. If you think that the cost to replace this is $60,000, the next question is, how much of a killing am I going to take if I do nothing and just resell it and sell it back? Is it going to be 10,000? Is it going to be 100,000? How much is that going to be? Because if it's equal to it, if you bought it for 223 or something like that, and you're going to take a $60,000 hit by basically selling it back, then where are you? You know, if you're not, if maybe you're only going to take a $20,000 hit on it, well, then it seems to me it's leaning toward selling it. But if you're going to take a bigger hit because people are scared to death over it, you just balance those 2 costs. Of course, a rehab cost is a pre-tax cost. And therefore, again, if you can expense it rather than capitalize it, you can take that expense right away or very, very quickly. If not, you have to capitalize it and basically take it over a period of years, maybe 5 years, 7 years, something like that. So you just have to find those 2 numbers to tell yourself in a general way whether I should keep it or whether I should fix it.
Okay.
I've got something on that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you have a home warranty, and would it be covered, number 1? Number 2, I hope it's in a separate LLC. And number 3, I hope you have double insurance.
No, I don't. And I don't have double insurance. I mean, I've got homeowners policy. I don't think that the homeowners policy will cover it.
What about
Um,
getting a general liabilities policy to cover things like slip and falls or accidents or something like this, just so that if it does come to bite you, you've got the insurance, and I hope it's not in your name personally.
No, so the unit itself is in my name personally. Currently, the one tenant's lease was up. They never complained about anything. So as far as I know, they were never even aware that the unit had anything. I've only owned it since this past September. And the other tenant, the management company has shown them another unit that they manage, and it looks like they're going to be moving into that other unit next month. So it'll be completely vacant, no tenants as of next month.
And so when you bought the property, you didn't do an inspection?
Pardon me?
When you bought the property, you didn't do a home inspection, or you did?
Yeah. So I bought the property. They did a home inspection, and the seller provided a Chinese drywall report that said it didn't have Chinese drywall. But the report itself, when you go in and read the report, there's a lot of disclaimers in there that says this report was done in 2019 at the behest of XYZ Insurance Company. It can only be used by XYZ Insurance Company. Do not take this report to mean that anything in far as you're concerned. And then, so I had another one done myself, and this one says, yes, there is Chinese drywall, but then there's 1,000 weasel words in there saying that well, but you would have to then do a scientific analysis. You know, it is in our expert opinion that there is, but in order to know for sure, you have to take these extra steps. But based on the preponderance of evidence, the new report, the fact that the coils were changed, the fact that there's corrosion on all of the metal fixtures, and some other telltale signs that were in the report that I had done, it's pretty definite that that is Chinese drywall, and it was actually built right in the window. It was built in like 2006, I believe, like when that was a problem. So
there's two people I would look for in the Fort Myers area. One is the attorney whose living is suing these manufacturers for these defects. So I'm sure, like every other business, there's a niche of guys that's what they do. And I would say the other thing I would look for is, I'm sure there are companies in that market area that buy these properties on the cheap and resell them, as a business. Like I know there are companies that buy fire damage properties because they know the cost and they know the process to replace it. And I'm not suggesting, but you might want to look into, maybe, you figure this out, then you're able to buy these properties. If you know the numbers, you're able to, because there'll be people like you in the same problem, I would think.
Yeah, and I mean, another option is just so right now the mortgage is about $1,000 a month, so I'm losing $1,000 a month just by not doing anything, and foregoing rent, right? But it's actually increased. I bought it in September for $239,000. The market rate is about $255 now, so it's gone up just by doing nothing. $17,000, $16,000, whatever it is. I could wait another 6 months, or maybe went to the summer. They'll probably continue to. The market's really hot right now. I could wait a little bit more. So in other words, what I'm losing every month in rent, I'm actually gaining in appreciation of the unit. So it's kind of balancing out at the moment.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it could get to the point where I could sell it to somebody whose job it is to rehab units. And for them, it'll be a great deal, because for me, it probably costs $60,000 to fix it, but for them, it'll probably cost half that much, or a fraction of that.
Well, I would also go to that attorney who specializes, and to those people who specialize in those deals, and say, hey, I'm looking for a new contractor. Who do you recommend? And use a contractor that they are already using that's going to be cheaper than somebody else who knows how to do this efficiently, and then lower your costs that way.
Right.
Because there's people who deal just in this problem all day long, I'm sure. That's a big enough issue in Florida, where there's industries around that problem, just like asbestos was for a while here.
Yeah, I mean, the irony is that it cash flows so well, if nothing is wrong, your mortgage is $1,000 each unit. It was actually more than 1,000 cash flow. Each unit was rented at 1,250, right? So on both sides of the duplex. So it was, 2,500 rent on a $1,000 mortgage. And so even if I grabbed $60,000, out of my bank account and fix it, the cost of money of that 60, it's still kind of a good investment, even with this horrible problem,
Sure. It was
I
actually
just-
neighbors there, because the neighbors were all manufactured the same time, the same vendor, the same material. I wonder what they would say.
I asked that question of the real estate agent, of my real estate agent, and they said that that it wasn't a track home community, that the lots were sold separately and the units were built by separate builders and whatnot. So it wasn't, it's not a cookie cutter California style track home situation. But
still, the same time period, they bought from the same suppliers, a good, not 100%, but a good chunk of them up from the same places.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, it was a huge problem. I did reach out to an attorney, and they said, yeah, we're no longer doing Chinese drywall. That was, it was a big problem in 2010, and it was like a 10-year litigation, and they finally closed out in the beginning of 2020, like where the manufacturers paid out to homeowners and whatnot. So I mean, that was just one attorney, right, that I reached out to. So, and then I reached out to another one who didn't return my calls. And so I just wanted, and so I'll probably reach out to 5 or 6 and see if somebody will return my call, just to see if not the manufacturer, then perhaps the company that inspected that said it didn't have it, they likely have professional liability insurance. So there's an insurance company on that end to maybe file a claim with, and even if they paid it, it probably wouldn't be $60,000, the real cost of fixing it. But at Edward's point being that this is, I could write this off. My job isn't real estate investor. I own a marketing research company, and we're doing very well. And so I'm thinking, in the real estate, the other properties are cash flowing, so maybe I could it wouldn't be a horrible thing to have a loss there, that I could use, from a tax perspective. Maybe I should talk to my CPA as well.
I mean, it's never a good thing. It's writing off the loss is always a salvation, but it's not really the goal.
No, it's not a good thing. I would rather not do it, but it's worse when you're not making money and then you have a loss, then in which case you're double, screwed. So.
Got it. In the chat box, Carlos, who's a contributor here, made a point of sharing EEG Restore, EEGrestore.com, and they seem to be a company that does that kind of work. So it might be a vendor for you to take a look at. Carlos, problems equal money. Carlos, yes, and thank you. I know you sent me a problem last week, and it's not quite money yet, but it's money in process. So I appreciate your support.
Yeah, I mean, the advice in that situation, I would say focus on getting the asset earning again versus trying to fix the problems of the past, because I think that ship has sailed for you. I mean, if you want to reach out to me, how much you want for the property? I texted before that problems equals dollar sign. So, right now in this market, you got to have a strong stomach if you want to get deals, because the only things that are out there mostly have warts and look pretty bad right now. So if you want to ping me later, let me know.
All right, cool.
Excellent. Nice
Thanks,
problem. Nice juicy problem, Roy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else has a problem? Anders.
Yes, I have a problem with the city of LA. 4 months
Hold on
waiting
one second.
for building permit.
Hold on one second. I just want to share with the group. So if you've been to Tony Robbins training, one of the things he teaches is that frustration is good, because frustration is a sign that you're growing and pushing against the barrier. So one of the things he does in his training is when somebody says, I'm frustrated, he turns to the crowd and says, he's frustrated. And then your job, if you're in the audience, is to give that person a standing ovation. So Anders, you have a problem? Yay, Anders has a problem. That's great. Anders, let's talk about it.
City of LA building permit. Waiting 4 months, nothing. Seems like that department have not come back after COVID yet.
I will share with you, I had a deal that was hung up for a report out of the city, and they told us how long it would be, and it got done sooner than they said it would be. I do think government employees are luxuriating in COVID. I think they're just enjoying the time off and getting paid and all that. So yeah. Anybody
Working from home, doing it via email, so it's slowed down the entire process, you know, so it's almost like unless you know somebody that knows the inspectors, it's like very difficult to push ahead the lines of people waiting for it.
You know, as bad as I thought things were here in LA, I was talking yesterday, Carlos, to our mutual friends in New York. What a mess probate court in New York is. What a complete, I thought it was bad here in LA in general. And I have to say, I'm impressed with our Superior Court, the managing justice has done a great job. I mean, we shut down for about 3 months and then worked on the backlog till we're today, they're pretty much caught up. In New York, they're still, when you file probate, which should take 30 days for your first hearing, they're still at 3 and 4 months. Just a complete mess. And nothing's available online. You have to sit there and wait for it to come through. So Anders has a problem, which is good news for us. Waiting for what kind of permit are you waiting on, Anders?
Well, it's a building permit for a total renovation and also adding an ADU on top of that.
Yeah, I sold the house, City of LA, where the client had submitted plans, and a smart investor jumped on it because he realized that one, the market was going to be hot, and two, with plans already created, it would shortcut the process to approval. So anybody have any experience or suggestions on what to do with LA Planning Department?
How far along are you in the project?
We just started.
So are you gutting the property, or what are you doing to the property?
Yep.
You got that all done, taken care of already?
Yeah. So demo is done.
Everything's ready to go. The only thing that's holding up is permits.
Yep.
Have you added, in your opinion, is the property worth more based on the things you've done so far than it was when you bought it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't pretty. It is in, I shouldn't say pretty bad shape, but it is in. It's not. It's a total renovation. So
right.
So
the reason I asked the question is this: if you bought it for $300,000, and based on the things you've done to it so far, it might be worth $365, then maybe it's time to just unload this thing. I mean, you know, there comes a point where it's non-productive to fight the battle that is only going to be won 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now. And therefore, if, for instance, you think you've added value, my thought is at least consider basically offloading this to someone else. Give it to someone else, make your modest profit, and go on to the next deal. I know that's not what you wanted to do, and I know there's probably nowhere near as much profit in it, but you know, sometimes you just have to do this.
yeah, we've been talking about that too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yep.
Where's the property at, Anders?
Cypress Park.
sometimes getting an offer in hand, even if it's off market, helps those discussions along.
No.
The
I mean, what I would say is to move, try to move everything forward as much as you can until the permits pull in. I mean, you can lay everything out if it's the plumbing that you need to do or things like that. You can lay things out, get it all prepared, and just wait for that time when you get in the permits. That way, it's less work for you at that point. When they come to inspect, you have everything ready to go. Where they can see it.
Also, is there anything you can do to the property now that is not something that you need a permit for? Can you shine it up? Can you paint it? Can you carpet it? Can you do some things that will maybe add $10,000 or $20,000 of value to it over your costs? And therefore, as I say, just make it a little sweeter for yourself. And as I say, unload that.
All right.
I don't know what that might be, but I just
no, we have to look at that, but yeah, that might be an idea. Yeah,
there's some hungry investors out there right now, really hungry.
Did they give you any kind of time frame on what it's going to take to get the permits?
Yeah, they said 2 months to when we submitted everything, but yeah, that's 4 months ago.
So this is for electrical, plumbing, drywall, insulation, you name it.
Yeah, we basically can't. Yeah, we need
so
to.
You're gutted. It's down to the frame.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in.
You have added value then.
Yeah, we have gutted it, and there is permits waiting. So I mean. If someone is willing to have more money and are willing to wait and bank on that, and there is a permit for an ADU, and we're going to get the ADU because they've already been there, and there is an address already for that ADU. So I mean, it's not gonna.
Do you own the property free and clear, or do you have a loan on it?
We have a loan on it. Yeah,
because that's another reason you might want to consider. Offloading it, because every month you're paying the alligator,
Yep.
Oh, if you decided to unload it, let me know. I have several investors that would be willing to take it.
I will do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that area is also a really hot area.
Yeah, it is.
Red hot. So sometimes people, it's funny because as a broker, people say, well, they paid too much for that, right? My job is to sell the property and I don't really get into making those decisions for people. But what I can say is it's not so much that they're paying too much, is that they're willing to work for a lower profit for whatever reason. And that's their prerogative.
Yeah.
And so you might look at that and say, well, why would somebody pay that much? Well, don't worry about the why. Find out what they would pay for it. And you might offer up to several people, get the a number of bids going. But I think you might be surprised. I'm always surprised what property goes for. I'm just always surprised in the last 90 days or so. It's just unprecedented in my experience. Okay, good. Hey, Anders, thank you for sharing your problem.
Thank you for the advice.
Who else has a problem we can work on?
I could put a couple problems out there. No.
Melissa, you got a lot of problems. No,
I have
Okay, we're
99
starting now.
problems.
We're
No.
starting. Okay.
Well, thank you for Ed for starting a fire, number one, because it definitely inspires me. My name is Melissa and I work with Real Property Management, California Coast. That's what I do, is I work with problems. I think my problem as of late is I think the moratorium, a lot of people are more focused on fixing, flipping, and getting the hell out of there because you don't want to get stuck with the renters. So I find that quite often, I've got these old school owners that would rather just, reach out to me when they're disabled or dead to manage their property, since it's not rocket science to manage a property, a rental property, whether it's single family home or multifamily. But my problem is finding the investors that don't want to deal with the daily minutiae, that it's a professional do it. So if anybody has anybody that they're interested, that's my problem. It's slowing down a little bit for me until this moratorium is up in the end of June, which is right around the corner. And we've got awesome pit bull attorneys that are like biting at the, the bit right now, that are basically saying, you know what, I think realistically it could take 2 to 4 weeks. I don't know if that's going to be accurate, but again, if anybody has those type of problems, my problem is finding the people with problems.
I all the time see investors who hang on to properties like that, and they'll say at the same time they want to buy more, but don't have the time to deal with it. Well, the way you get time is you buy time from somebody else who does something, and either they do it cheaper than you, or they're a specialist and do it better and faster than you can. And I don't know anybody who's really accumulated great wealth who didn't have a property property manager for their investments, because that work is not the kind of money, the kind of value work in the long run. Now, you guys are a big company, you can leverage it over your systems, but for an individual investor, the fastest way to save some time is get a property manager and to get that off your shoulders and go out and scale up and look for some more deals. So,
Yeah,
Can I
I
ask,
think
but-
what
can I ask
resonates too. Oh, sorry, Dr. Ed, go ahead.
no, that's okay, go ahead.
What resonates too with what we've talked about in these calls before is how valuable everybody's time is. How many deals are you working on? How much, how much are you worth, per hour? We have a bottom line, obviously, but it's cheaper than you think it would be. So I think a lot of times they're like, oh God, I'm not going to pay you $200 to do that. Think about what your time of $200 is realistically. So please go ahead and ask your question, Ed.
My question was this, if I may, in a range, how many units or how many buildings do you manage?
We're about 700 throughout South Bay and Southern Los Angeles. We try not to go past Santa Monica or past, I guess, like the southwestern part of Los Angeles, because we're a franchise.
So this is a very, very large company that you're a part of.
Yeah, and we're not a single person wearing multiple hats, that maybe you've worked with in the past, that it's just, you call in and you don't get a phone call back for a week. You're always going to get a phone call, same day, and regular property inspections. It's a little bit more organized, and we're very technologically forward. So you've got everything at your fingertips via, your owner portals, your maintenance portals. Everything is just very clear. And again, it's all something you can write off. You can write off the management fee. You can write off the cost for it. So it's just, the bottom line number, it pays for itself.
Just a off the top of my head question, and maybe a little on the leading edge, but how much would you say monthly you get for managing a unit?
Well, I would say on average.
And I know there's a variety of ways.
There is.
Are we talking hundreds or?
Yeah, I would say that most of our properties range between, we have rent control. So we've seen properties at $400 to $50,000.
Mhm.
So
The
on
reason-
average, we really only get like maybe $175 a property. Our minimum is usually $100 just to
Right.
manage a property.
The
That's a
reason
full
I
team.
asked that question is this: realizing you're not the CEO of the company, but do you think it might make sense if you could get your client, and let's say, I assume you have clients that have 4 units, 10 units, 20 units that you manage. And my thought is, would it not make sense to approach those people and basically say, listen, I just want to educate you on an opportunity you may have. And that opportunity is not to continue to lease 10 or 15 of these homes, if you will, and have us manage them, but basically to sell those units and convert them into a triple net lease product, which will basically give you a lot more stability, will give you a lot less worry about management. You're cannibalizing your own business. But what I'm saying is that to the extent that you can convince a few of these people, and let's just assume for the moment that they have 2.5 million of value in 5 units that you're managing. Well, the fact of the matter is that if you sell that property for them, if you convince them to exchange it for a triple net lease property, which has a lot of beneficial aspects to it, the basic commission you'll get is, let's just assume 6% of 2.5 million. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I think it's a pretty big number. And I think it's many years worth of management expense. And to the extent that you educate them on this opportunity, even if 9 out of 10 of them don't take it for a whole lot of reasons that they shouldn't, it puts you in a tremendous position of showing them that you can educate them about different opportunities that are maybe and maybe not beneficial to them. It gives you great credit. And if 1 out of 9 or 1 out of 7 say, yeah, it looks like a good deal, you have to forego those future management fees, but in exchange for them, you have a whopping commission. And you not only have a whopping commission on the sale of their 500 units or 5 units, you have a commission on the replacement property, where basically you might be working with someone who's a commercial broker who knows about triple net leases, and therefore you pick up a commission not only on the sale of their homes, but on the exchange that takes place for the second transaction. So you almost double your commission. Just a thought for you.
I appreciate that. I think it's something to present to the owners of the company and see if they're willing to, consider that, because it sounds, like it's very beneficial.
Just a thought.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, any last problems? We're going to wrap up here. We're getting to the witching hour, but any last problems that we can? Well, first off, Melissa, thank you for sharing your problem. We're so glad that you have problems, Melissa. We wish you many more problems in the future.
Thank you, everybody.
Anybody else have a quick problem we can solve real fast, or want to put out there for future reference?
I have a
Well,
oh, go ahead. Who was that?
Well, it's my problem number 2. Well, my wife has a problem. She's a new realtor, and we live in a small town in between or outside of Paso Robles, Shandon, and there's someone who has approached her to sell her their house, and she is having trouble getting some comps on it. And they had a contractor there, and he said it's a teardown, but they are living in it. So she is struggling with the comps and what to price it for.
I'd be glad to help. I coach agents and mentor agents, new agents on that all the time. If you want to pass on my name and number, if she could send me whatever comp she has to look at beforehand, just so I could glance at them and have a sense of it. But I'd be glad. I sell property all over the place, so I'm kind of used to this problem. So you can only.
Right.
I'll just say the short version is there only is what there is.
Yeah.
Now you want to try to make heads or tails of it when you can, and there's a strategy as well as what to do. So give me a holler and or send you my contact info, my email or text. Yeah,
I do.
Have her mention your name.
All right.
Your wife isn't the problem. Wife has a problem, correct?
And that's correct. No, my wife is not the problem. No, she has a problem.
We don't want to create a problem with your wife where there isn't one. So good. Okay. A little married husband humor here with the wife being out of the house. I could talk real bold. So she's not here today. Okay, good. Hey, Gabriella, Better Escrow Service. Real quick, Gabriella, where is Better Escrow Service located? Caught you without.
They have an office in Burbank, an office in Manhattan Beach, and they have a presence in Riverside and San Bernardino Inland Empire, and have served customers from San Diego to Santa Barbara.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes, thank you.
So we do this every Tuesday, 3 p.m., realestateinvestingzoom.com. On Thursday at 4 p.m., I have probateweekly.com. Where we get to talk about probate issues, title issues, and related. Tomorrow at 2, I'm hosting multifamily. Annabelle Pacheco's call. She's out of town, so I'm hosting that on multifamily investing out of state. So if you want to join there, I'd love to have you on that as well. Appreciate your support. We send out, everybody who's on here, we send out a link for the YouTube. If you like it, please like it. Subscribe to it if you want it regularly. Put any comments or questions in there. We'll try to get to them. I watch it real closely. So thank you all for participating. Thanks for sharing your problems, Roy, especially, and Anders. Thank you, Melissa, and Ed, Dr. Ed, as always. Daniel, thanks for sharing, and Gabrielle as well. and the rest of you. Have a great week, everybody.